There comes a night when your chest feels heavy, your eyes burn from holding back tears, and the world around you seems deaf to your pain. You want to scream, but who would listen? You want to share, but who would truly understand? And in that silence, you find yourself talking to man before ever kneeling before the Lord. But what if I told you that's where you lose your strength? Because the moment you cry before man, you hand him what only belongs to God: your surrender, your trust, your deepest emotion. This message is for every soul who's cried to the world when they should have cried before their Creator. Number one, the cry of the soul. There comes a moment in every human heart when silence grows heavy, when words fall short, and even your own reflection looks like a stranger. It's not pain in the body, it's pain in the spirit. You smile to keep the world comfortable, but inside you're breaking piece by piece. The cry of the soul isn't loud, it's quiet, trembling, and sacred. It doesn't always come with tears. Sometimes it comes with exhaustion, with numbness, with the feeling that you've lost something you can't even name. You try to find peace in distractions, in people, in endless noise, but the ache stays. Because this cry doesn't come from the surface. It comes from the depth of who you are. You see, the soul cries when life becomes louder than truth, when your heart is buried under expectations, when you carry pain that you never talk about, when you pretend to be fine because you fear being misunderstood. It's that moment when you've given your best to everyone, but no one has given you the space to simply be. You wake up tired, go through the motions, and the world sees your function, but not your fight. The cry of the soul is not about weakness. It's the soul's rebellion against the life you're forcing it to live. It's your spirit saying, enough pretending, enough pleasing, enough holding it all alone. You can silence this cry for a while, but never forever. You can bury it under work, hide it behind achievements, disguise it in laughter, but late at night, when everything goes quiet, it returns. The heart knows when it's unloved, the soul knows when it's unseen, and no amount of human praise can replace divine connection. You start realizing that your cry isn't asking for people, it's asking for peace. It's not about being heard by the crowd, it's about being healed by the Creator. The cry of the soul is not for attention, it's for alignment. It's your inner voice calling you back to truth, back to faith, back to the source of all comfort. The beauty of this cry is that it breaks what needs breaking. It tears away illusions, masks, and false strength. It reminds you that you are not meant to survive on willpower alone. You are meant to be guided, comforted, and renewed through grace. And though the cry may sound painful, it's actually sacred, because in that cry lies the beginning of your return. The moment your soul cries is the moment heaven leans closer. You may not realize it, but every tear is an opening. Every ache is a prayer. Every trembling breath is a bridge between your despair and divine mercy. The cry of the soul doesn't want pity. It wants presence. It doesn't need someone to fix it. It needs someone to understand that there is beauty even in breaking. It is the cry of remembrance, the cry of a heart that has tasted the emptiness of the world and now longs for something eternal. When the soul cries, it's not losing, it's awakening. It's remembering that peace doesn't come from man's comfort, but from God's nearness. It's remembering that no matter how far you've drifted, there's still a voice within you whispering, "Come home." Number two, seeking man's approval. There's a quiet trap that so many fall into, the desperate need to be seen, liked, and accepted by others. It begins innocently, almost unnoticed. You do something good and someone praises you. You feel valued. Then slowly, without realizing it, you start living for that feeling. You start shaping your words, your choices, even your silence around what others might think. You begin to fear disapproval more than failure. You start measuring your worth through the eyes of those who barely understand your soul. And one day you wake up exhausted, because living for man's approval is like chasing the wind. It never lasts and it never satisfies. You try harder, speak softer, do more, smile wider, hoping to be enough in someone's eyes. But no matter how much you give, it never feels complete. You fear rejection, you fear judgment, and yet the very people whose approval you crave are often just as broken, insecure, and lost as you are. The tragedy is that when you start seeking man's validation, you lose your own authenticity. You trade your truth for applause, your peace for attention, your freedom for acceptance. You stop asking, "Is this right?" and start asking, "Will they like it?" Every decision becomes a performance. Every dream becomes conditional. Every moment becomes a stage. The approval of man is a fragile thing. It shifts like sand beneath your feet. One day you're celebrated, the next day you're criticized. One day they cheer for you, the next they question your worth. You can't anchor your identity in something that changes with moods, gossip, or misunderstanding. The moment you let other people decide your value, you hand them the power to destroy your confidence. And the most painful part is that man's approval never heals the soul. It only feeds the ego. You start chasing more of it, believing that the next compliment, the next like, the next validation will finally make you feel whole, but it never does. When you live for people, you forget you were created for purpose. You forget that the same God who breathed life into you didn't make you to be a copy of anyone else. You were designed to be bold in your truth, grounded in your faith, and secure in who you are, even when the world misunderstands you. The need for approval fades the moment you realize you already have divine acceptance. The Creator who made the stars also made you, intentionally and beautifully, without needing a single opinion to confirm it. His approval is not earned, it's inherited. And when you know that, you no longer bow to the temporary praise of man. Seeking man's approval is like watering a plant with sand. It looks busy, but nothing grows. The more you chase it, the emptier you become. Because at the end of every crowd, there's silence. At the end of every compliment, there's an echo. And that echo will ask you one question that no one else can answer. Who are you when no one is watching? Number 3, the silent witness, God. There are moments when the world turns its back, when the people you trusted most walk away without looking back, and when your heart aches with the weight of things no one will ever understand. You sit in silence, surrounded by noise, yet feeling completely unseen. You try to explain, to be heard, to justify your pain, but words fail. And in that emptiness, you begin to wonder if anyone truly sees you. But there is one who has been watching, quietly, patiently, tenderly. He has seen every tear you never cried out loud, every thought you never dared to share, every struggle you carried with a brave face. He is the silent witness, God. He doesn't interrupt, he doesn't accuse. He simply observes, understands, and holds your story in his hands. You see, God doesn't need your explanations. He reads the language of your soul. He knows when your heart trembles, when your faith wavers, and when your strength is running out. While others see your actions, he sees your intentions. While the world judges what's visible, he witnesses what's hidden. Every moment you thought no one noticed your effort, your patience, your quiet endurance, he did. Every time you chose kindness over revenge, forgiveness over pride, faith over fear, he recorded it. His silence isn't absence, it's awareness. He is not ignoring you. He's observing the growth he placed within you. The silent witness watches not to condemn, but to comfort. He doesn't rush to rescue because sometimes your pain is the passage to your purpose. He knows that strength is not born in ease, but in endurance. When you cry in secret, he gathers your tears. When you break in the dark, he prepares your dawn. When you think no one sees your suffering, he whispers, I do. His silence is not indifference, it's protection. There are things he doesn't reveal yet because he's shaping something greater than you can imagine. The waiting that feels endless is often his way of building your character before blessing your path. And though he rarely speaks in thunder, his presence fills the silence. You sense it in moments you can't explain. The sudden calm in chaos, the quiet strength in fear, the small signs that appear just when you're ready to give up. That's him. That's the silent witness reminding you that you're not alone. His eyes never left you, even when yours filled with tears. His hands never stopped holding you, even when you thought you were falling. His heart never stopped believing in you, even when you doubted yourself. The world may misunderstand your silence, but he never does. People may question your choices, but he knows your heart. You don't have to shout your pain for him to hear it. You don't have to prove your worth for him to see it. He has been there in every quiet victory, every lonely night, every moment of breaking and rebuilding. The silent witness never sleeps, never forgets, never leaves. He watches, not from a distance, but from within you. Number 4, the power of surrender. There is a strange kind of strength that only reveals itself when you stop fighting everything around you. The world teaches you to push, to control, to plan every detail, to hold on tightly to what you think you deserve. But there comes a moment when all your strategies fail, when every door you've knocked on stays closed, and when every ounce of effort feels like it's working against you. That is when you face the truth that not everything is meant to be conquered by force. Some battles are meant to be surrendered. Some victories are found not in doing more, but in letting go. The power of surrender doesn't come from weakness, it comes from wisdom. It's the understanding that there is a greater force at work, a divine order beyond your sight, shaping everything for your highest good, even when you cannot see the pattern. To surrender is not to quit. It's not about giving up on life, it's about giving in to faith. It's saying, I've done all I can, now I trust what I cannot control. It's the decision to release your fears into hands stronger than your own. You stop clinging to outcomes, stop begging for certainty, stop replaying the past in your head. And in that release, you find peace. You realize that surrender is not a loss of control. It's the rediscovery of calm. It's when your heart whispers, even if I don't understand this moment, I trust that it has purpose. That kind of faith doesn't come from comfort, it's born in chaos. It's the quiet courage that says, I will stop fighting against what is and start flowing with what will be. The power of surrender lies in the stillness that follows the storm. When you stop resisting life, you create space for divine guidance to move. You begin to see signs, to hear inner wisdom, to feel clarity where confusion once lived. The more you let go, the lighter you become. You begin to understand that your strength was never meant to carry everything alone, that the weight of control was never yours to bear. You were never supposed to have every answer. You were supposed to have faith in the one who does. And that realization doesn't break you, it frees you. When you surrender, you stop treating life like a fight and start treating it like a partnership. You no longer say, why me? You start saying, use me. You stop asking, when will this end? And start trusting, this is preparing me. The energy that once went into worry begins to grow into worship. The anxiety that once filled your chest transforms into gratitude. You stop needing proof and start walking in peace, because when you surrender, you shift from forcing outcomes to following divine timing. You stop chasing what isn't yours and start attracting what is meant to be. And in that sacred release, you discover that surrender is not the end of your power, it's the beginning of it. Number 5, faith through tears. There are moments when faith feels impossible, when your heart is so heavy that even hope seems distant. You try to pray, but the words won't come. You try to smile, but it feels forced. You tell yourself to stay strong, yet your spirit trembles under the weight of unspoken pain. It's in these moments when tears fall freely and silence feels endless that true faith begins its work. Faith isn't loud. It doesn't always roar with confidence. Sometimes faith is a quiet whisper between sobs, a fragile, trembling voice saying, I still believe, even though it hurts. Faith through tears is not the faith that celebrates victories. It's the faith that survives heartbreak. It's the belief that even in your breaking, something holy is happening. Tears are not the enemy of faith, they are the evidence of it. You only cry because you care. You only weep because your heart still believes in meaning, in goodness, in divine justice, even when the world gives you every reason to doubt it. Your tears do not weaken your prayers, they strengthen them, they purify them. When you can no longer stand tall in certainty, you kneel in surrender, and that's where real faith begins. It's easy to trust when life is kind, when prayers are answered quickly, when dreams unfold smoothly, but faith through tears is different. It's raw, it's real. It's the kind of faith that stands on trembling legs and says, even now, I will trust you. When you cry before God, you are not showing defeat, you are showing depth. Because faith is not about pretending you're okay. It's about believing that even in your pain, God is still working. Every tear that falls before Him carries meaning. None are wasted, they become silent prayers, rising beyond words. They speak of the trust you still hold, even when you don't understand the plan. They remind heaven that though you are wounded, you are still reaching upward. And God hears those tears. He collects them, counts them, and turns them into seeds of renewal. Someday, in ways you can't yet see, those tears will bloom into strength, into clarity, into peace. Faith through tears is not about having answers. It's about holding on when there are none. It's about walking through the valley with wet eyes and a steady heart. It's about saying, I don't know why this happened, but I know I'm not alone. There's something sacred in that kind of belief, the kind that doesn't demand understanding, only presence. Because faith is not always about feeling strong, it's about staying connected. It's the invisible thread that ties your brokenness to divine healing. You cry, you ache, you bend, but you do not break. And somewhere between your prayers and your pain, a quiet miracle begins. You start realizing that the same God who allows your tears also gives you the strength to rise after them. The same storm that soaked your spirit also washed away your illusions. And as your tears dry, your faith doesn't disappear. it deepens. Number 6, rising from reverence. There comes a time when you realize that true strength is not found in pride, but in humility. The world teaches you to stand tall, to prove yourself, to never bow before anyone. But there's a different kind of rising, the kind that begins only when you kneel. Rising from reverence is not about lowering yourself. It's about positioning your soul where power truly begins. It's when you acknowledge that your wisdom has limits, that your strength can't carry everything, and that your plans are too small for a God who sees eternity. When you kneel in reverence, you are not surrendering your worth, you are aligning it. You are saying, I am not in control, but I am in faith. And in that quiet humility, something sacred awakens within you. You stop striving, you start listening. You stop demanding, you start trusting. You rise, not from arrogance, but from awareness. Reverence is not weakness. It's wisdom dressed in humility. It's the awareness that there is something greater guiding you, something unseen yet profoundly real. It's the moment when you recognize that you are not the author of every outcome, but you are chosen to play your part with grace. When you bow before the Creator, you are not lowering your spirit, you are lifting it toward truth. The act of reverence is not about religion alone, it's about relationship. It's about realizing that your every breath is borrowed, your every blessing is intentional, and your every step is being watched over by love that never fails. You rise differently when you rise from that awareness. Your steps become lighter, your heart becomes softer, and your mind becomes clearer. You no longer move from fear, you move from faith. Rising from reverence is understanding that life's power doesn't come from dominance, but from dependence. It's knowing that the highest mountains are climbed not by prideful hearts, but by humble ones. You start to see that the same hands that shape the stars also guide your every moment, and suddenly you stop fighting for control. You begin to find peace in patience, strength in stillness, courage in surrender. When you rise from reverence, you don't seek recognition, you seek alignment. You stop comparing your journey to others because your confidence now comes from connection, not competition. You become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because your roots go deeper. There is a grace that comes only when you bow your head before God and admit that you need His guidance. That grace becomes your shield, your compass, your quiet source of power. You realize that reverence doesn't make you smaller, it makes you limitless. Because when you kneel in humility, you stand in authority. When you lower your head before the divine, you rise taller than fear, doubt, and pain. That's the paradox of reverence. It brings you to your knees so you can learn how to truly stand. My friend, life will test you. It will break you, bend you, and sometimes leave you standing in silence wondering if anyone truly understands your pain. But remember this, your strength is not proven in how loudly you fight, but in how deeply you surrender. Every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered, every moment you've chosen faith over fear has been seen, heard, and held by God. You are never unseen, never unheard, never alone. So, as you walk away from this moment, walk with reverence. Speak less to man and more to your Maker. Trust that what you've lost was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to draw you closer to Him. When you kneel before the Lord, you will always rise stronger, wiser, and more at peace. Keep your faith alive even through the tears, because that is where your true victory begins.